This is the Owl of Wisdom. Like and subscribe for 10 years of good luck. If you don't, it won't be pretty. Gamers of Reddit, what are some underrated games do you think more people should play? Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, was expecting the typical steaming turd from a movie-based game. Turned out to be surprisingly really good, 90% on Metacritic. Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction. It was GTA in North Korea. You could hijack anything, and destroy any building, and call in airstrikes. Truly ahead of its time. Never could beat the final mission, though. Regardless, amazing. Sacrifice. I don't remember a lot of buzz about it. It is one of the most imaginative RTS titles in history. It came out late 2000, and I don't think there has been a game like it. Unlike most RTS titles, it played like a third-person RPG instead of a top-down isometric game. You personally controlled a unit, you would summon creatures and cast spells, get into direct combat with the opponent. The goal was to corrupt the altar of the enemy. You play a wizard in service of one of a pantheon of gods. The campaign is well told and imaginative. You show up after a catastrophe destroyed your reality, one that you might have caused, in some ethereal realm, and the gods there try to seduce you to their side. Every mission, you can choose to serve the same god or a different one, gaining new spells and summons each time. You essentially build your repertoire this way, similar to an RPG, since you keep your rolled selections. As war breaks out between the gods and they start dividing into factions, your options close off until you are left serving the last god standing against a horrific foe. It has some great voice acting. Tim Curry plays this god of air who constantly insults the earth god. The game's visuals are insane. The world crafted using voxels that could show massive terrain destruction. One of the spells would transform a huge area of the map into a volcano and rain down massive flaming boulders that would break massive holes in the ground. Sadly, it sold pretty poorly. It was ambitious, funny, ahead of its time. The UI really hurt the game. It's pretty awkward to play. Ghost Trick. Edit. Jesus Christ, didn't expect this to generate such intense reactions. GG guys. If you want a good overview of this game, watch Matt Thumatosis video about it on YouTube. He's the one that got me into it. Driver, San Francisco. Really cool game with a unique storyline. Sadly, it isn't available top public anymore. For me, it's got to be an old Sparks game called Metal Arms. It's a bit old now, but it's the shit. They were going to do a sequel, but the company was bought out, or bust or something. Custom Robo on the Gamma Cube. My summer car. It's like a car driving simulator that takes place in 90s dashing land. You build your car, in the meanwhile you do dumb shit driving around and interacting with all the drunk men in the map. You can get drunk too. Kinda a trashy game but still fun. r/Misumaka. Gun. It was a 360 launch title. I wanted remastered so badly. One of my faves. Screen Cheat. It's a split screen multiplayer game that you play online. Every character is invisible, and the only way you can kill each other is by looking at each other's perspective, hence Screen Cheat. Also some really funny additions into the game, for instance a mode where every sound is replaced with an Australian going bugger. Cheap and hilarious. Champions of North on PS2. Been waiting for a remake forever. Loved it more than Baldur's Gate, Deadly Alliance. My wife and I must have played that game and its sequel for 100 hours. Edit. Also, no love for Armor Core series either. Damn lol, when I wasn't killing vampires in a black pit in Champions, I would destroy mechas in a parking garage. P. Brave Fencer Musashi for the PS1. Edit. Never expected this comment to do so well, but thanks to everyone who commented and made me feel validated for my love of this game. Good memories. Godhand. I know, the Gamma play is a little clunky, but I'll be damned if it isn't funny. Split Second. A very good racing game with the added element of trying to destroy the other drivers with explosions. Peas, you wrecked yourself. Kenshi. It's kind of a fucked up dystopian game that takes place in some barren hellhole. Not your typical AAA titles. More PC and independent. Lower budget. But as a gaming experience, I think it captures the very essence of what an organic gaming experience to be. The game itself is kind of this fucked up scenario and places you in the middle of it. Rise or fall, it almost feels like it's up to fate. But the cool thing is that your player gets stronger with repetition. So as long as you're alive, you've got a shot. Even if you're bleeding, limbless, and crawling great distances starving. A scenario all too common in Kenshi. Starsiege Tribes. Came out in either 1998 or 1999, but was one of the first games that used projectiles and mid-air combat. The base game itself was pretty awesome, but what made it incredible was the extensive modding community. Full-fledged RPGs with unique textures, maps, and NPCs. The game is pretty much dead now, but still has a few active people and servers. Might be more nostalgia, but what an incredible game and player base. Gene Dark on the PSP was fantastic. I hoped for a sequel or at least another game from the developers. It's honestly the only reason I haven't sold my PSP. There is a game I just recently heard of and immediately got on Switch. It's still quite new and definitely has more than a few bugs, but its concept is so cool and the game itself is beautiful. It's called Pine and the concept is that you are a human in a world where humans never made it to the top of the food chain. There are 6 main species on the island including the humans, and basically everyone is stronger, smarter, and more well established than you and your people. One of the coolest things about the game is that it has an always changing sort of political status among the different species. If you ally with the Fexels, then the Litters will hate you because they hate the Fexels. You can join in fights or you can try to watch from a distance as a Carablin gatherer gets into a fight with a Gobbledy gatherer. There's a main quest to follow, some puzzles, resource gathering, crafting, and combat. It has elements that remind me of Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, but it does still have plenty of bugs and kinks to work out. The game developers seem to be active, one especially in the subreddit for the game, and take people's concerns very seriously, so the game can run smoothly. Edited to @hey. So I see a wide mix of responses to this, and a lot of people saying the game disappointed them. That's fine and I get that, especially if you played it right at release, and not after the main patches like I did. I really enjoy the game despite the bugs I've encountered personally. But I totally understand if other people don't. I don't want to mislead anyone into thinking it's some perfect game, but I truly enjoy the concept, and I'm willing to put up with the minor annoyances of the lagging and whatnot in order to play. If you give it a try, I hope you enjoy it. If you don't, then I'm sorry I led you astray. I've talked about this game before, but I think it's very underrated for such an amazing game. Back in 2003, Bethesda came out with an RPG called Pirates of the Caribbean. The game is not at all connected with the film series, aside from a few names here and there. Basically it was a pretty large world full of islands that you could explore as this guy named Nathaniel Hawke. You could choose what kind of pirate you wanted to be based on your actions, like you could be a smuggler, a trader, a bloodthirsty swordsman, etc. They gave you skill points as you leveled up to put into things that would help you become the character you wanted to be. You could hire crews for your ships that would also fight at your side as you explored the islands and at sea. On the islands there were dungeons and caverns to explore where you would fight skeletons and get treasures and really great weapons. The ship battles were fun, but they also gave you the option of avoiding them or doing them in a less involved way if that was not your thing. These battles would either be with other pirates or a country that you were not friendly with at the moment, because diplomacy also played a major role in your character. There were quite a few ships you could choose from too, and if you were a smuggler or trader you would rely on these ships to move cargo from one island to the other. There was a main story of sorts, but it was a pretty open world filled with side quests that allowed you to do your own thing. My biggest complaint was that the controls were a bit clunky, but you got used to them. I loved that game very much and revisit it every few years, but not a lot of people I know have ever played it or even heard about it. Here is a trailer of some of the gameplay if you're curious. Va 11 Hall A. It's a pretty darn chill game set in the future where you play as a bartender and mixed drinks. The gameplay is quite simply, and the characters are pretty interesting. That, and Xenosaga 1, 2, 3 and Ace Combat 3 through 7. The Nonary Games Plus Zero Time Dilemma. Fantastic puzzle / escape room game series. I love the story, though some find it a bit out there. Shelter and Shelter 2. Simultaneously the most relaxing and stressful games I've ever played. So gorgeous and the soundtrack is stunning. They're honestly works of art. Edit. I also forgot to mention Shelter 3 is coming out soon, and this one follows a herd of elephants, and I'm so excited. Golden Sun and Golden Sun, The Lost Age. Two of the best RPG games I have ever played, and they need to make another one for Switch. Please make it happen, Nintendo. The Advanced Wars games almost fully overshadowed by the Fire Emblem series. Both were made by Intelligent Systems. Lord of the Rings, The Third Age. I love JRPGs and this was one of the first from a property I actually recognized and could relate to. The playable characters are original and the story walks hand in hand with the films, bringing in tons of nostalgic fights. I recently did a playthrough of that game on an old PS2. Still holds up. Super Robot War. For some reason, it just never picked up steam, nor is mainstream in America. But if you like turn-based tactics games, high degree of stats customization, multiple game paths, and friggin' kikismekis, you need to check this out. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. Such a unique experience / gameplay that I haven't seen since. Also the theme song is hype. I know that a lot of people still play it on PC, it's dead and neutered on consoles, but no mainstream war FPS has ever really truly delivered like PlanetSide. A very large battle, shifting fronts, real sneak attacks, infrastructure, dropships, tanks, aircraft, open fields, cramped bases, actual long-range snipers, you name it. You actually took territory, and it was all persistent. Not just the same 5 capture points but hundreds. There was no better experience than fending off an unorganized wave attack with a team of good communicating players. Every time I see a new battlefield, or COD, or whatever, it's still not going to touch it. It might look better and play smoother, but it won't capture that experience. I love feeling that cog in the machine feeling. The second Viva Pinata game. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. UT around Shamo 9 Badders. Hi by Supergiant Games. It's probably their least played title, but it is not only my favorite, but might be one of my favorite games ever. The art direction and character design are world class. The story is unique and inventive, not to mention the game doesn't end if you lose, but the story changes, and the gameplay is weird but fun. But the best thing about it is the music. The music is the best I've ever heard in a video game, as every character gets their own themes, and the game ends with a song that is personalized to what you did in the game. I cannot recommend it enough. It is a truly beautiful artistic experience. The Long Dark. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. It was one of Arcane Studios' earlier games, so fans of Prey and the Dishonored series might like it. The Sparks port was pretty weak in regards to the RPG element, since they made it all very streamlined for some reason. However, the original PC version gives you much more freedom to customize the protagonist. It runs off the Source engine, so you know the physics will get whack as hell. Plus you have a kick ability to make it even more wackier, turning it into the adventures of Sir Kixalot as you launch orcs, goblins, and the 5 voice-aligned necromancer guards into spicules and off cliffs. Skies of Arcadia. It ticks most of the early 2000s JRPG boxes, but does so in a pretty unique way. It's bright, optimistic, and fun in ways that sets it apart from its fellows. Eternal Darkness, Gamma Cube. It's essentially a horror action RPG which has you play multiple characters over millennia. What really makes it great, though, is that it messes with you as your character starts to go insane. Bugs crawl on the screen, you hallucinate becoming a zombie, etc. But the absolute best was when it put up a fake BSOD. I about shit myself, realized what it had done, and just had to say, bravo, devs. For people who liked Undertale and those kinda of meta, fourth wall breaking RPGs, there was this little game called Onishut that came out in around 2014 that was magnificent. It's on Steam now, but it doesn't function the same way because they wouldn't be allowed to. The original version, if you can find it, is genuinely one shot, in that you have to follow the directions closely and make sure you're satisfied with the difficult decisions you're presented with, because you literally can't go back and redo anything. It's the first RPG I played where the player actually is themselves and simply communicating with the main character through the game, complete with sneaky messages passed back and forth, and antagonists reaching out to mess with the player. Thanks for watching the Chronicles of Reddit. Like and subscribe for a marvelous life of adventure.